This house is still pretty bad. Welcome to I Hope You Suffer.
Yeah, it's not great. Doesn't get any
Yeah, this
better.
one got pretty worse. This is our second episode
Yeah,
of Amityville. I was trying to think
somehow,
if we numbered, but like I don't. Yeah, this is just this is the first one we're doing for Patreon of the Amityville series.
somehow only our second. It seems like it's been a long journey.
Yeah, so we are going to talk about the next four movies in the Amityville series, which is from like 1990 to 96, I think.
Yeah.
Um, oh boy. This was not great. Not a great watch.
Mm-mm.
It's like this one, these four did not have like the fun of like at least one, like there wasn't one of them that was like fun like two was. It was just kind of like just a like three of them are just about haunted items basically that fuck up the house, and they somehow make those extremely boring.
Yeah, and it's also like the farther we get away from the original, the less it's a haunted house movie and it's just like straight up demons
Yeah, pretty
or
much.
some kind of demonic entity that is con stuck to an item controlling somebody else. And I'm like, that's not super fun to me personally, but you know,
Yeah, none of these were great. There were things in everything but Amityville Curse that I at least enjoyed, but it's
yeah,
mostly just like I think the issue for me, I guess with all of them, but especially these last four, has been like nobody is likable.
no.
Not a single character in any of these movies has been likable, and it's like hard to give a shit when like none of the family members in the house are anybody you're like rooting for to survive.
Yeah. It's also getting progressively more like sexual, which I find strange.
I mean, like I figured it was like going at some point it was going to end up being like because like leave like the 80s and 90s were big for like nudity, so I figured at some point there would be like at least like a sex scene here and there, but
There's a
they're
lot.
pretty big on the interfamily sex in these movies apparently.
Yeah, and almost every single one of them starts out with someone having sex because I guess that's the only way to show that there's a healthy couple. I don't know. Well, not in this. Okay, the first one that we had to watch was the Amityville Curse, and I have to say, this is my least favorite of all the ones we've watched so far.
Yeah, same.
I was really bummed because it looked like it could have been interesting, and I have to say that the plot that we read is not actually the plot of this movie. Like, so on IMDb, at least it says five people spend the night in an abandoned house, the Amityville haunted house. It's not the Amityville haunted house, though. Soon find themselves terrorized by assorted ghosts, insects, and ghostly apparitions. That's not really what happens. Like, this movie is about
This movie is a
um
home renovation movie. Basically, that's
yeah.
it.
So like the main couple, first of all, the dude is a fucking dickhead. Um
uh,
Wait, is this the priest house or that's yeah. Okay, so this movie, right? I feel like I watched this so long ago that I don't even
I
remember.
watched
Okay,
this
yeah.
like yesterday, and I don't. All I remember is it's like a group of friends that I hate all of buy a house that they're going to like flip, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
oh, yeah, go ahead.
the back plot of it is that this movie starts out with a um a guy, a priest. So this house is not the Amityville house, but it is in Amityville. So on the surface, I love the idea of like other shit happening in this town. Like it's not just the Amityville house that's like messed up, it's the whole town, right? So this is a different location where something else also messed up happened, and I like the idea of that, but their execution was so bad. So essentially what happens in this one,
Well,
obviously
real quick,
spoilers.
I think that's kind of my complaint with all of them is I feel like all, at least especially these four, all like have like a premise that's fine, but is just not done well.
Yeah. So let's see. The director in this one is Tom Barry. Do we know him? Like
No, like I looked at him on Letterboxd and there was like nothing I recognized from him.
Screamers, something about, yeah. So the
Oh,
premise of
he
this
did do
movie,
a movie for Lifetime called The Husband She Met Online. Well,
oh,
he's
I
an
would check
actor
that
in it.
out. Oh, okay. I'd still check it out. Was there actually anybody notable in this?
Kim Coates, the guy that plays Frank, was in like Bad Boys, and he's been in like he was in Silent Hill,
I totally forgot he was in this
Waterworld.
movie. Goon.
He's in
Yeah.
like a bunch of stuff. I think, honestly, the only person I remember is in one of the further ones coming up because Lynn Shay's in it. But like, oh, Helen Hughes was in this. Who was Miss
Mrs.
Moriarty?
Moriarty.
Yeah, she was in Billy
Yeah.
Madison.
Okay.
Oh, she was
So,
in the
yeah.
Incubus that we watched.
Oh, geez. I try to block that one out. Okay, so yeah, not super notable. I also found the leading lady extremely annoying. Um, so the premise of this house is that the house is actually, I don't know what you call this, but it's like where the priests live. It's like the priest's house. And
Oh,
he
is
goes
that
to
okay?
church. Yeah, so he goes to church one day and somebody comes in and kills him, murders him with the shotgun. And Mrs. Moriarty, who is like the house uh, keeper, I guess, finds him. After that happens, they move all of the stuff from the church into the basement of this priest house, and that's where everything stays. So, like, the guy's organ, all of his books, the booth which he's been murdered in, which I don't know why you wouldn't just get rid of that, but whatever. So then nobody lives in the house. This couple buys the house with their friends to renovate it. So yeah, it's a renovation movie. And so the premise of it seems kind of cool. The wife has some kind of abilities that her husband and friends make fun of her for. But they like show up at the house, which this house is still fine. Like it has a bit of a creep factor, but it's way not as nice as the Amityville house. It's like, I don't know. It's just like whatever. So this is like 12 years after. Um, and so that's the premise. And then like, I don't know, one of the guys who I think was Kim Coates ends up getting, um, shit, now I'm forgetting. It was something with the ending had to do with him being like maybe the priest was his dad or something stupid. There's just like not really a lot of hauntings. When it says that they're being terrorized by ghosts and venomous insects, there's like a tarantula, maybe. Ghostly apparitions, not really. Like, I don't know. It just was so freaking boring.
Yeah.
And the ending was like kind of okay. There was like some gross stuff that happens. There was like one particular thing that I remember is that one of the girls is like a painter and she gets her hand cut and then she's like in the bath. I wrote hand maggots in blood
I
tub.
I think like, cause is this the one that like, yeah, this is the one that like it's like that towards the end, like I think this is it, that who one of the female characters is being chased by one of the dudes who's like possessed, and she like throws the saw blade at him.
Oh my God, yeah.
Like that was cool, but like like, I'm not over exaggerating for people that haven't seen this movie. I think the only place you can watch it right now is YouTube. You might be able to rent it somewhere, but it's not free anywhere except YouTube. It
Yeah.
it's like the first 40 to 45 minutes of this like hour and a half movie is just like home renovation shit, and these like somehow friends that all hate each other like
Yeah.
interacting, and it's like I guess because it's the thing that happens in all these movies is everyone start like for the first 10 to 15 minutes they're all friendly, and then something is happening inside the house or a haunted object that's making them all like be shitty to each other. And it's just, I don't know, like it especially with these four we watched for this, like it was the same plot for each movie basically. And
Yeah.
like it was just people go into a house and then something is making them be mean to each other, and then somebody starts dying. I don't know, like it was rough.
Yeah, and I mean, like there's not really anything like anything that happens quote unquote spooky in this one is just like nothing really happens until the last like couple minutes, and then even the execution of it wasn't super great. Like there is one point where one of the guys, the guy who is like possessed, gets a door slammed on his hand, and then he like pulls his hand
Oh
out
yeah.
and his skin comes off, and like that was pretty cool, and like his face gets burnt, and that was pretty cool. But then like it still ended the same way where like the cursed object, which in this case is the confessional booth, just like explodes at the end for no reason, and it's like I don't know.
I
Or it, yeah. So it just, I don't know. I liked the idea of the overall plot, but they did not execute it well at all. It was like extremely boring.
I will say that like this group of movies though did have like when there's actual kind of like gore or makeup effects, they're all pretty decent.
Yeah.
Like, but it's just it takes so long to get to any of them that
Yeah.
by the time it happens, you're just like, all right, well, I don't care now because this sucks. And like, I think literally all four of these were like an hour and a half, hour 35 minutes
At
tops,
least.
and like they felt
Yeah.
so long.
Yeah. This one was, this one
Like
was pretty bad.
this is definitely the one I have like the least really to say about because like we said, it's like it's real boring. It's just like a group of like the most unlikable people. Like
Yeah, like
I
are
think
people
I
not friends anymore? I feel like a lot of like horror movies, it's always like a group of people who just hate each other in a
well
situation. I'm like,
it's
I would
also
never.
I think the dynamic is so different when like for the especially these haunt like Amityville movies when it's not like some sort of family, when it's just like friends, it's just like I
Yeah.
feel like there's not as much of like a reason to be invested, I guess, because like I don't know, like I feel like at least when it's like a family, or especially because they start getting extremely weird with the family members in most of these, then
Like, yeah.
it's like at least something more that you care
There's like
about.
more at stake.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
like these friends just seem like number one not friends because they're all dicks from the get-go, but like I don't know, it's hard to care about anything happening to them because again they're completely unlikable even as like a group of friends. Like I feel like
Yeah.
Next Generation like is like a group of friends, but like all like I don't know, they felt more like
They're
friends than this.
Yeah, and I felt like the situation in that was a little bit different where they were all like well, not single, but they were all living in an apartment building, but but it kind of seemed more like a co-op situation. So like they were closer to family than like they felt closer to family than these people felt like they were even friends. Because it's like you had the two newlyweds. Kim Coates is one of them, and he is just like a dick to everybody. Then you have the other couple where the wife is the psychic and her husband is also a dick. And then there's just like one random guy by himself that seems like maybe he's into the psychic lady or something. Those two had like a pretty good relationship. He was like, um, nice to her about like her visions and whatever. But then like the dudes were just shit on him because he was being nice to her or whatever. And it was just like, it's so fucking dumb. I don't know. I
I
didn't care about anything that happened.
I like the ending. I kind of remember when it's like, there's always the like chase scene through the house or whatever. I remember that, and mostly just because like the dude had like fucked up makeup on and gets the saw blade thrown into his leg. And then I remember, like, is this the one that had like a weird scene at a bar where the guy's like talking to people in the bar and they're just like, yeah, this whole town's cursed because of that place.
Yeah.
And the dude's just like, like, because like all of them, it's always like shit's happening, and it's always like the people that actually live there don't believe in any of it, but everyone else in the vicinity is like, oh yeah, that place is like cursed as fuck.
Well, they
And they're
also
like, you
don't
dumb
seem to.
yokels.
Yeah, they also this is a step back for me because the thing that I was saying I liked about Amityville in the first place is that the people move in knowing something terrible happened, and we're already to the point where like they move in and don't seem to know. Like she can feel that something's wrong, but like they don't really know what happened until later. And then there's this whole subplot where like she's seeing a dog boy ghost thing, and he he was like, I don't know, framed for the murder of the priest or whatever, and he either they hung him or he hung himself or something. So she's like seeing that and trying to like make peace with that, and I was just like, what?
Yeah, it's I don't remember if we like recommended watching any of the ones in the first one, but like that first four we did for the other episode, like I'd say watch them. They're like like some of them are kind of boring, but also like there's stuff in them that's like interesting enough that like they held my attention. This is the one so far that I'm like, do not watch this. It sucks.
Yeah, don't. I think I
like,
gave it half a star.
I did too, and there's 1.3 thousand people that have logged it on Letterboxd. 2 of them are 5 stars.
Yikes.
Like, there's 2, 3, 8, 20 people out of that many have rated it above 3 stars.
Yeah, it's bad. It's like not even visually, like you don't even get the cool house. Like at least with Evil Escapes, you
Yeah,
had
I
a
don't.
cool like a cool house or like a cool situation, and this was not that
I
because it's
don't.
like a fixer upper, right? Or it's there's just like nothing that stands out about the house at all.
I don't think you even get like a vision of the Amityville house in this one. Like all the rest of them, like something will happen where there'll be like a flash or like the we'll get to it, but like the next
Yeah,
generation one is like in the mirror and shit.
yeah. No, you don't.
Yeah,
So
don't watch this one. It sucks. It's
do
bad.
not.
Yeah, we'll
All
jump
right.
to 1992 with Amityville 1992. It's about time. It's such a fucking dumb title. I like this one's not great, but I kind of liked it. It like
Um,
it it's extremely dumb because this one is essentially about a clock that's haunted because it came from the Amityville house.
yeah. So in this one we have I don't know how to say his name. Stephen Mach,
I would have said mocked, but
Mock, Mocked.
uh,
Anyways,
I will say
he's
real quick though, the director Tony Randall directed Hellraiser 2 Hellbound, which rules, and Ticks, which rules,
oh, okay.
and a movie called A Doggone Adventure, which I assume also rules.
I love that.
Because it's about a dog
Um,
and a UFO, it looks like.
oh my God.
I'm in. Alright, anyway.
This one was pretty well. Oh, I was gonna say, so at least we have like a leading guy who I recognize from stuff because he was in the Monster Squad. He was in Graveyard Shift. I'm sorry, the Graveyard Shift. can't do it as well as Kit, but um, and let's see, did I even recognize anybody else?
I don't like. Honestly, the only person I specifically recognized is in Next Generation because Lin Shaye was in it. But like some of these people I remember looking at are in movies I've seen, but not people I specifically recognize. Because Stephen Mock, like you said, Graveyard Shift, Monster Squad. He's in a bunch of the Trancer movies from
Yeah,
Full Moon.
he's pretty recognizable, and I thought he was pretty good in this. As so he is an architect, and essentially, this is kind of like any other movie that has the Amityville house. I feel like this movie is kind of erasure for it because he's basically like knocking down everything in Amity and rebuilding it as like row houses. So that's his job. He was visiting, I don't know where they live, probably California again. He was visiting the site, and somebody gave him a clock from that. Essentially, my problem with all of these like items that are from the actual Amity house that people take somewhere else is that they all look so weird. Like, why can't they just look normal?
Yeah, I don't know. Like I know, like I understand the like want to find a interesting looking house, but like I don't know, like they always pick like the craziest looking places.
Yeah, and then like whatever the item is always looks crazy. So anyways, so and like while he was away, his like ex-girlfriend, I guess, stayed at the house to watch his two children who they're not they're like teenagers. There's like one punk guy who's got a sick dragon guitar. And then he's got like a daughter who's also a teenager who's like, of course, like a goody two shoes. So then later when she's possessed, she can pretend like she's all sexy and shit.
Oh, well, Dick Miller was in this movie. Who was Mr. Anderson? Why don't I remember
Um,
seeing Dick Miller in this?
I don't remember.
Was he maybe the guy across the street that gets the swastika drawn on his house? I don't know.
Maybe.
But Dick Miller's in this.
Maybe.
Dick Miller rules. So there we go.
He might have been because then there was also that scene where like the bush catches on fire and he was
Yeah,
like,
maybe it was
so
him. Yeah.
maybe. But essentially, like she decides to stay the night, even though she is dating some other guy, and they put the clock up on the mantelpiece, and then the clock like drills itself into the house, and then weird stuff starts happening. Um, this house looks wacky as hell. Like I don't know what aesthetic they were going for, but it's like it's weird.
Yeah, I couldn't
Um,
tell if this was like shot in an actual house or if this was like a bunch of soundstage rooms. Because like none of the rooms seem like they're in the same house.
yeah. The downstairs is just like it looks like a movie. I don't know. I don't know how to describe like the wallpaper and shit.
The only way
But
I can explain it is like this house looks like a sort of 70s retro version of the house that RoboCop goes to in RoboCop when he's like looking for his family. But like
yeah,
that's like the future. I don't know. It's very strange.
right. Yeah, it's really weird because even for 1992, like yeah, I just couldn't figure out what was going on with it. Um and this movie is basically what happens is that like the house, or I'm sorry, the clock kind of like makes the dad, who is also kind of a dickhead, uh, think that the person across the street, their dog, like bites him, and then
Old Peaches.
poor Peaches. I listen. Kit said this movie was good, and there's a scene with Peaches that really upset me. Like, I'm gonna have nightmares about it. So, essentially, the thing that the house does to make the dad crazy in this movie is that makes who knows how he got these like attacks or whatever, because he says Peaches did it, but then Peaches didn't actually do it, but he's got like pretty gnarly bites all over his leg. And then they prescribe him this medicine that makes it that they literally say like, oh, he could be like irritable and have hallucinations and be whatever, and he just goes off the deep end. His wounds look gross. I think they did a good job making him unhinged, like in a different way than, you
Yeah,
know,
he
like,
he pulls off like pretty well the like I think this is maybe one of the first ones where it's like since the first movie where it's like a dad that's possessed or whatever that kind of comes
yeah,
off as like a dick but kind of believable
yeah.
because he like you hate him from like pretty early in this movie. Like after his attack he immediately is like different and you're just like fuck this dude.
Yeah, but then this is like strange because like yeah, so the ex-girlfriend Andrea, I think her name was,
Yeah.
immediately sleeps with him again. Then also has her boyfriend. So she ends up staying at the house to like take care of the dad because he, you know, is in a really bad way. But then like the boyfriend comes over and then the boyfriend is having like hallucinations of the dad like shooting him, and it's just
Oh
like
man, I
really
forgot about that.
weird. And then, so I think overall this was not my favorite, but there were some pretty cool things in it. The whole thing around like the son who was kind of like, I'm sorry, somebody refers to him as zombie voodoo metalhead stuff or something. He's basically just like a kid who has spiked hair and like an earring. So they basically blame him for everything that's going on. Like, yeah, there's the swastika that gets drawn somewhere. Um, Lights go on and off, just like really dumb shit. And Andrea keeps like blaming the guy Rusty. And he's just like, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. And it was like really frustrating.
Yeah,
They try to
there
do
were things where like he gets like something happens and
when the bush catches on fire,
yeah,
she thinks
that's
he did
like
that.
in the span of like 10 minutes where like she had just talked to him, goes out and sees the bush on fire, and comes back and he's still upstairs with his headphones on playing guitar, and she's just like, "You're grounded, you son of a bitch." Like
Yeah, well, and so like I think that what they were going for was that like the clock house was affecting her also, but like I feel like they didn't really, that part didn't come across as well. And then of course the daughter, Lisa, gets all sexy. There's like a scene where she's like looking in a mirror and like feeling herself up or whatever, which
yeah,
comes back later.
the mirror version of her reaches out and is feeling her up.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, she's from Encino Man
Oh,
and Freaked
okay.
and the Brady Bunch movie and Joe's Apartment. What a lineup.
I thought I recognized her, but I didn't like look up
Yeah,
anything.
she looked familiar, but like it didn't seem. She also just kind of looks like every actress
She's like,
from like teen
yeah,
actress from the '90s.
yeah. And then there's also a scene where like she tries to incest with Rusty, and I was like, can we stop with that?
Yeah,
And the answer is
nope.
no, apparently they cannot. So, yeah, I don't know. There's some cool stuff that happens like towards the end. Like she lures this like jock boyfriend guy to like come sleep with her or whatever, and he like melts into the floor, and it's
Yeah, the
pretty
floor turns
cool.
into like a quicksand type thing, and he like sinks into it, but it's also like burning him at the same time. And
Yeah,
then I
and then he
like,
like,
oh, I was gonna say that I assume that's what starts coming up in the bathtub that Leonard's in.
yeah, because his like hand pops
Yeah,
out of
it's
it.
pretty gross and gnarly.
Yeah. I didn't really like the climate. Oh. So then you find out like there's also all this stuff with this like lady across the street. She's the one that's like the psychic in this one because you know you got to have a psychic.
Oh, is this the milk truck?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I
So,
forgot which movie this
well,
was.
first of all, she ends up telling, so her and Rusty, the boy, Rusty's like, all of this, he immediately knows something's wrong. He's like, all of this strange shit is happening at my house. And she's like, okay, yeah, that's because, oh, so in the very beginning, she looks at the house after the clock is there and sees a flash of the Amityville house, but like she doesn't know why. And there's a point where like he's looking into the den where the clock is and he turns the light off and the whole room turns into like a dungeness looking room. And so the way that they explain that this clock is evil, like I still don't know how it's tied to Amityville at all, but she's basically talking about how the clock is from 15th century France and it belonged to this guy who like was a necromancer or some shit. And I was like, "What?"
Yeah, it's very weird.
So that's why that's how the clock is evil. Um, and then the clock starts, trying to like get rid of other people. And the way that this lady dies, I thought was actually pretty funny.
Yeah,
Um,
like so she like comes outside, if I remember correctly, to like basically go to the house to warn Rusty.
mhm.
And as she's out there, like, so one of the things in this movie, and one of the, like, I actually enjoyed this aspect of it, is that the clock fucks with time basically for people. Where like
Yeah.
there's a scene earlier where Leonard gets done fucking Andrea in dude's house, and like comes downstairs in like the robe and like puts something in the microwave for like 15 seconds, and it just slows down and everything stops, and then like, like weird shit happens to him where he gets like the gun pulled on him and all that shit. But like, there's other stuff where like Rusty at one point goes into another room during dinner to get something for somebody, and when he comes back, Andrea comes down and she's like, "What happened to you? You left, like, you went to get something while we were eating dinner and just never came back. That was like 3 hours ago." And like, so like the clock is like fucking with this family and like time and stuff. And so this lady, do you know what her name was? Is this Iris?
I don't
I think so.
remember.
The picture on Letterboxd is black and white, so I'm going to assume that was Iris. Um, she like comes outside and she's going to warn, like, to the house to warn Rusty, and all of a sudden, like, it's like the 50s outside, and she sees like a milk truck like delivering milk to somebody, and she's just like, "What the fuck?" And all of a sudden, the guy that's like the milk truck, while it's unmanned, like is just in drive and comes driving at her.
Oh, it's a diaper truck.
Diapers, milk, same thing. Did they have diaper truck?
Yeah, because there's a part where the guy is like that's why there's a stork on it.
I guess that makes sense. But
Yeah.
she like dives out of the way, and the truck hits like a brick mailbox thing, like a pile of, or a stack of bricks
Like a
where the like,
column.
yeah, that
Yeah.
like a mailbox is on it. It stops the truck, and she's like laughing because she just like escaped death or whatever. And the stork on top of it starts like wobbling back and forth and falls down and like impales her. It's pretty good because it's like one of those scenes where, you know, it's like, oh shit, she almost died and then didn't. Oh, never mind, she's dead.
Yeah. And the way like the reason that she gets so she walks with a cane and she walks out into the street and the clock like creates a fissure in like the street that her cane gets stuck in, so she can't like walk without it. And that's
Oh
why
yeah,
she
that's
like
right.
has to dive out of the way or whatever. But then she's like, haha, wow, that was close. And then the stork just like gets her, and it was like pretty gross. I'm not gonna say the thing that happens with the dog, but like super trigger warning is one of the worst things I've ever seen.
I'll say it. The dog. Like I can't tell if the dog gets sucked into or is like beheaded, but like the odor finds Peach's head in like the
I'm
not
pretty
drain, but
sure,
like the little like cleaning thing for a swimming pool,
yeah,
like
I'm pretty
filter or
sure the
whatever.
whole body is in there, and
Yeah,
it's just like the head, and that's like sticking
yeah,
out.
that's what
Ugh,
I
I
assumed
was
it
so
like
mad.
it got sucked in, but it's not. It doesn't show that. You just see like the head in there, so
Yeah, it was bad. I hated it.
yeah, it's not great. I don't know. I mean, overall, this movie was fine. I gave it 2.5.
I gave it a
I,
2.
I laughed very hard at the very end when Andrea walks out and says it's about time. Like the
Yeah,
the last line is literally "It's about time."
the whole ending to me is kind of what, like, I feel like it was like really boring in the beginning. It took sort of a turn when shit started going down, but then the whole ending did not do it for me.
Well, I was like interested. It's like it's not great, but it's fine because it's essentially like spoilers if you haven't watched it. But like the ending is like creates like a time loop, I guess, and like it's just goes back to the beginning with a dude coming home with the clock, except this time Andrea like smashes the clock to like stop
Because she
this,
remembers,
whatever
yeah.
would end up being like a loop. And then she like
Because
I
I
forget
think
what happens, but like the guy says something to her, and she's like walking out. She's like, "Well, it's about time," and it's like credits.
Yeah, because I think essentially what happens is like Rusty gets turned into a baby and everyone else dies, I think. And then yeah, I don't know. It's just not my favorite.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I feel like none of them are gonna live up to how good two was, but this one was like out of like the first six at least was pretty decent. It's like enough that it kept my attention and I was like invested.
Yeah, and there was like some parts of it that were just wacky enough that I was like, okay, like it was definitely better than Curse. I liked it better than Evil Escapes for
Yeah,
sure.
it definitely suffers from the thing like we said earlier, where it's just again like really none of these people are likable.
No.
Like I feel like Lisa and Rusty are kind of like supposed to be, but like I don't know, they're just not.
Yeah. They're just like whatever. They don't, yeah.
When we get to fucking Dollhouse, every single person in that fucking family is about as unlikable as everybody in Possession was.
I don't
Uh,
think I had that much of an issue with them, but
God,
we'll get to it.
I hated the fucking kid in that movie, but
The little nerd kid,
yeah,
I was
he
hoping he would
sucks.
die. He was terrible.
um,
I have some things to say about that.
yeah, so we'll jump to the next one, which is 1993's Amityville: A New Generation, directed by John Merlowski, who I don't think I've seen anything else from.
Wow, he
He's
did Richie Rich's Christmas Wish.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen any of these.
I don't think I have either. Oh, he Contagion? Really?
Oh wait, oh I saw Contagion. I haven't seen it in a long time, but
Yeah.
no, this is not. This is not the this. I think we're thinking of something else.
Zombie Hamlet. What?
Oh man, this movie
Okay.
poster is insane. Um, I gotta get back. Yeah, this one. So this one like was again fine. Like I didn't hate this one. I thought the kind of like the twist sort of like it's not necessarily a twist, but like when you find out that it's like the guy's dad is like the homeless man at the beginning
Mm-hmm.
was like kind of interesting. I was like, oh, okay. I'm kind of interested to see where this goes. And spoiler, it's just an item making this guy crazy and almost kill everybody he knows. And there was like
Yeah.
there's like some scenes in it. Like I liked the stuff with Suki and like
Mm-hmm.
the pretty bad paintings that she makes.
Yeah, I actually liked this one. I think this is like probably my favorite aside from two of the ones we watched. It is kind of slow for what it
Yeah,
is.
it
Like
takes a while to like get going.
at this point, like we've really just disconnected ourselves complete. Like there's no haunting anymore. This is just like straight up demonic shit happening.
Yeah.
Like not even demonic shit, but like possession type stuff. So we've like really just moved away from that. And so in this one, and honestly, the plot and the twist is kind of similar to what happened in Curses because you find out that it was like one of the dudes the whole time. But like for me, it worked better in this movie. So basically, it's about this like artist named Keys, and he lives like in this situation that they live in is really weird. So it's like studios for artists, but then like the landlord, I guess, told them that they could have shows for people to come and like buy their shit or whatever, but then he doesn't want them to do it. I don't know. It doesn't matter. So they're trying to like convince him to have a show. And Keys kind of is like a life like a he takes pictures normally of just like buildings and shit, I guess, and he sees this homeless guy across the street that he takes a picture of. He goes over and he's like a pretty good dude. He's like, hey, I took a picture of you and I think I can probably sell it. So here, some money. Like, I don't want to be the only
Yeah.
person profiting off of it. And the guy's like, okay, cool. Here you go. Gives him this mirror that, again, is just really ornate, has like little goblin faces on it. Like, not gonna lie, pretty cool. Um, and so basically, it's kind of like them just dealing with life and him like you find out again like obviously you're not listening to like it this is spoilers. He the guy turns up dead, and so the police come. Oh, the police officer was um Terry O'Quinn,
I
who
don't know who is that.
he's a lot of people know him from Lost.
Oh, he's in Tombstone.
um
Oh,
he
he's in
was in the
Silver Bullet.
Rocketeer. Yeah, he's in the stuff other like a lot of stuff.
The only
um
person in this I recognized was Richard Roundtree, who plays Polly at the end, the artist,
yeah,
who was in
I
like Maniac Cop, Q the Winged Serpent, Steel, George of the Jungle, Theodore
yeah,
Rex,
I kind
Corky
of wish
Romano.
I wish that he had a bigger part. And then you said Lynn Shay. She was something in this.
Oh yeah, I forgot this is the one Lin Shaye was in.
Yeah. So essentially, like the cop comes and is like, "Hey, can you ID the body?" And it's the homeless guy, and he's kind of like, "Yeah, I don't really know him." And then the cop's like, "Well, why did he have your address?" And he's like, "I don't know." And then he feels sad because we find out later that, or earlier later, I don't know, his girlfriend is kind of like, hey, I want to get married. And he's just like, I don't think I can because essentially, like, I don't know my dad. Like, I've never known my dad and I don't know what kind of husband and dad I'll be or whatever. So that's a whole thing. So then it turns out, and the way that you find this out is like, was like baffling to me. So he is going to offer to pay for the guy's burial because the cop is kind of like, well, he doesn't have anything. Like, we're going to donate him to science. And Keys is like, no, I want to pay to have, again, just like a all around good guy. I want to pay for this guy's burial. So then he shows up and they uncover the tombstone, and it's like, um, the guy's name was Franklin Bronner. It's like Franklin Bronner, father of Terry Keys or whatever his name was. And he's like, what the fuck? And the cop's like, hey, hey, gotcha. So it turns out this is where the story is confusing to me a little bit, because essentially what happened is 26 years earlier, Bronner, Keys' dad, and the homeless guy from the beginning, is the is the one that did like the murder in Amityville, even though continuity wise that doesn't make any sense, because like in the movies, in some of the other movies, we have a direct reference to DeFeo. We also have what happened in the second one, but that was the Montelli family. So now we have like a third guy who did this. We see the murders in the movie. It's a completely different house. They're eating in a living room that looks like it's just somebody's bedroom. It's like really strange. But essentially what happened is that Bronner is the one that murdered his family. He ends up, I guess he's an adult though, because he has a kid. There's like I really liked all of the stuff with Keys where he would like have flashbacks, but as if he was an adult in them. So we see basically that like his dad went to like an institute after being sentenced. The mom and him went to go visit, and he ends up like killing the mom. So Keys grew up as a like an orphan or whatever, and so now there's like all this stuff around. Is it gonna happen to you? Like that's why it's called the New Generation or whatever. So like all of that stuff I thought was really cool.
Yeah,
Him
like
seeing his dad in the mirror wasn't my favorite,
well,
but
so I guess because I don't know if we said specifically that like the thing in this is like the mirror is what's haunted, and
right. No,
like
I yeah.
I like it's very stupid. Like it's just again like so like the you know the last one, this one, and then the next one we're talking about are all haunted objects that somehow tie back to the Amityville house. And it's like, okay, like whatever, but like the effect with the mirror is like fun. Where
Hmm.
like it's kind of I guess just another version of what happens with Lisa in the previous movie, where like they'll be looking at themselves in the mirror, and then the mirror starts doing like you know the mirror vision of themselves will start doing something that they're not physically doing, and there's like always this like weird like red fog kind of going on in it. And this
Hmm.
one, I can't remember. I think there were visions of the Amityville house in the last one, but this one like it'll do like the thing where like in the lamp movie, like the demon face would pop up in the lamp, and this one is just the Amityville house pops up in it, and it'll be like lightning
Looks through the
strike and
mirror.
shit like that, and it's
Yeah.
very goofy. It made me laugh, but I was kind of on board with it.
Yeah, I think the again, like I guess I don't at this point. I'm not really that mad about there not being as many killings or whatever because like it's not really that kind of movie at this point. I think it's kind of cool that it manifests like differently. Like all the stuff that happened with Suki, I thought was super cool. And then you also have like this aspect of like I love when movies do this where like there like most of it is in the real world and you can't really tell if like the stuff that's happening is actually happening or if it's the people just being, like having a breakdown or something like that. But then there's like this point where Keys enters like the mirror, and I was like, this is really cool. Like I was on board with it, and he could see like all the people that the mirror had taken or whatever,
Yeah,
and I was like really here for that. The ending I felt was pretty much what you expect the ending to be. Like there was no doubt in my mind of what was going to happen. But other than that, like I liked this one.
yeah. The ending is like it's pretty heavily foreshadowed, like what's coming. But I did like the idea that it was like an art show where like the his kind of weird art piece is like all of his friends as a family in like a dinner setting, and it's like he his girlfriend kind of convinces him to do this and like have like a water gun where he's gonna come in and like pretend to kill all of them, except for Polly has set up an art installation that is him sitting in front of a loaded gun on a timer that is supposed to go off at a random time while he watches TV, which seems dangerous. But
Yeah.
like so like as it's like piecing together, you're like, okay, well obviously he's going to get this gun and come in and like whatever, and like I don't know, it like it's heavily foreshadowed but kind of doesn't really like damper like how it's portrayed, I guess, like how it unfolds.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah,
I
I
was
don't.
sort of
I was into it. This one was not terrible.
no, it was pretty.
I think I
I think at least. Oh, and like we do get some other like effects where like some of the people re-show up as like zombie creature things, which I thought was pretty cool
yeah
looking. Like the effects were pretty cool.
I really liked, like I said it earlier, but like so one of the artists that live in this area that they're like friends with, this like weird housing thing, is a woman named Suki who does like who's earlier in the movie like I guess breaks up with some dude who like comes back and like starts like stabbing her paintings in the mirror, makes him like
Oh my God, that made me so
yeah,
mad.
same. But
I was like, bro.
like she has the mirror, and like the mirror forces this dude to like trip and like fall into a window and die or
Window?
whatever. But like
That
she,
was
oh,
weird, but
yeah, she like gets like possessed by the mirror and starts making all of these paintings of like demons that basically just look like comic book art, which
yeah.
like I was fine. Like I thought they looked fine, like they look cool, but like they don't look like paintings per se. It was a very strange
Yeah.
choice, but they're all of like demons, and like she has them all attached to these ropes so she can make them dance, but all of the ropes are nooses. And so you're just
Yeah.
immediately like, okay, well she's going to get hung in one of these nooses.
Yeah, and they're all like also they're kind of cartoony, but they're also huge. They're like
Yeah.
huge tapestries that she has hanging from the ceiling. So at one point the landlord guy comes in and it's like all you see the entire apartment is just like these huge paintings. And then at one point, like when the mirror starts like possessing her, one of the demons like comes off of the canvas, and I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, like I liked all of that stuff. I thought it was pretty pretty cool looking. Um but I feel like like a lot of the rest of the stuff between that into like the art show at the end, I was kind of like, all right, like I don't necessarily care,
Yeah,
because it is
I
mostly
don't.
just like a weird shit with Keys just being upset that that homeless guy was his dad and trying to figure it out.
Yeah, um, I don't really know. Like, I gave this a three. I liked it.
I
I
gave it
don't
a
really
two.
know what I would say could make it better, though. Like, it was fine. Like, yeah,
Yeah, it's. I mean, I feel like minus possession, I don't think any of these are going to work as well for me, especially because, well, I guess I like the remake. I know I think the remake will probably have a decent rating, but yeah, I don't know. Like I said, like in the first episode for these, like I don't care about haunted house movies, but also the further some of these get from the haunted house, where it's just like a haunted object, I'm just kind of like, all right, come on.
yeah. It's just like a demon in a
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. Last movie of the
Holy.
90s was 1996's Amityville Dollhouse. I'll give you one guess what this movie's about.
um,
Uh,
this one was crazy.
yeah, this one directed by Steve White, who only directed this movie. But he
Oh,
was a producer on Evil Escapes and Next Generation
okay.
and Halloween Town High.
Well, what I was gonna say is that the main character father in this movie is Robin Thomas, who is Calabar from Halloween Town. He is also a recurring prosecutor in Matlock. As soon as I saw him, I was like, Calabar! And Chris was like, okay, calm down. I get so excited. I feel like the wife I recognized too. Let's
Claire,
see.
yeah. Oh, I know her from Ghoulies too. Oh shit, she's in
Okay.
Scanner Cop. I can't wait to get my copy of Scanner Cop. Yeah, that's
um,
the only thing I think I've seen her in. But she did look kind of familiar past that, I guess though.
yeah, and I think, oh, and the little girl, she was in a lot of stuff when she
Um,
was younger. She was in Rumpelstiltskin. She was in the Torkelsons, which was like a Disney Channel show that I loved at the time. So she was like I recognized her also.
um, yeah. So this movie about a dollhouse that is the Amityville house that is not in Amityville anymore. It is in wherever the fuck these people live. This guy builds a house for his piece together Brady Bunch family that all hate each
I'm
other and don't get along and are the worst people I have ever seen.
I'm really confused about, like, I'm gonna say overall, I did like this movie. It was like something different, at least, especially within like the Amityville series. Um, I don't understand because, like, okay, we find out that this house, this brand new house that they have just built, um, the dad, whose name is Bill, his family used to live in the house and it burnt down. The only thing that was left was the chimney. They saved a ton of money by rebuilding the house around the chimney.
This
Or
also,
the
so
fireplace, I'm sorry.
when you see it, like when they first come up to, like, they pull into the house, the chimney looks like it's twice as long as the house, which seems unsafe.
It also was not made very well. Like, it's very clear that this is a fake. It's because it's like
Right.
stonework, but it looks terrible. And my main problem again with this is like, I guess the focus, like the area that they live in is so boring. There's like no grass even around because they just built this house. There is an old shed, and in the old shed is where they find the dollhouse that is shaped like Amityville. But like, I don't understand why the dollhouse exists or why it's there. Like what? They don't explain that at
Yeah,
all.
it's just in like a shed.
Yeah, so it's like it's kind of like in this movie, I guess, like we don't even know if the house, the actual Amityville house existed at all. It's just like it exists as a dollhouse. And I'm not gonna lie, this dollhouse is adorable. I low key like love miniatures. I don't have any, but I just think they're so cool. And in the beginning of this movie is just like a reel of like looking through this like house that's like a replica of the original, and it just looks really cool. There's also these like voodoo doll things in the house, and that's how the house basically does stuff to affect them in real life. And there's like gross spoilers, there's like gross little demon wasps inside them somehow. Um
Yeah, not great.
so again though, this movie takes a turn. So essentially, yeah. So, well, the reason that I was confused is because it's like the dad, a wife. The wife has a son named Jimmy, I think, who is a piece of shit. I hate kids like this because he's kind of like a little smart nerd guy, but because he's been picked on, he feels like he can just be a jerk to everybody because like the older son is kind of like a jock. He's like a basketball player. He's all whatever. And he is trying so hard to like be nice to Jimmy, but Jimmy just is like being a dick to him the whole time, being like, "You're just a Neanderthal." And I'm
Yeah.
like, "You're a fucking dickhead, Jimmy, okay?" Jimmy's dad has died. His mom has married Bill. Bill has the older son Todd, and then the daughter Jessica. But it's confusing because in the beginning, Todd is basically just like, "Dad, I miss when it was just me and oh, so is Jessica there?" No, I'm so confused about the children because Todd is like, "Dad, I miss when it was just me and you," and Robin, or his name's Robin. Bill, the dad is like, "Well, I really care about this family, so like, can you try and make it work?" And he's just like, "Well, Jessica's okay, but I don't know about Jimmy." And so I'm like, "Is Jessica not your full-blooded sister either?" They don't explain that at all.
Maybe Bill is just like marrying women with kids and murdering them or having them killed by
He's just like
houses.
taking them,
He's got this
right?
dollhouse
I
he's
don't know.
lugging around that's taking them out and just having building his own family.
I guess. So the thing that they do in this movie that I think is a little interesting is that it's actually the dad Bill that has psychic power, like abilities or something, because he basically like had a premonition of his when he was little of his house burning down and his family dying, but he didn't want them to think he was crazy, so he didn't tell them, and then it happened. Then he gets, I don't know, which I think is like interesting because it's almost never the dad figure that has any sort of, it's always the dad figure being like, "Yeah, you're a fucking idiot." You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And his sister is also like some kind of clairvoyant, and her boyfriend Tobias is like the the savior of this movie. He's just like this biker guy, but like he really came through for them.
Who was Tobias?
He was like the remember whenever the aunt like goes to like the witch shop or whatever,
Oh,
and
right,
he
right.
like shows up at the end and basically like saves everybody. So there's just like some weird stuff that happens with the house where like they can't turn off the fireplace. At one point the dad gets stuck in the garage with like the car monoxiding on him or whatever. But then it like takes a turn that I did not expect, where um sadly there's an accident where Jimmy's pet mouse gets squashed inside the house. And Jimmy goes into his room and is like pissed off about it. Bill comes in and tries to be like, "Hey, like Todd didn't mean to do that." And he's like, "You're just taking his side." I fucking hated that
Yeah,
kid.
he
And
sucks
then
so much.
he's terrible. And then he's like, "Well, can you tell me what I can do to make it better?" And Jimmy's like, "Just leave." So Bill walks out, and as soon as he shuts the door, Jimmy's zombie dad is just standing there, and I was like, "What?" I thought it was so cool because then he's like sitting there talking to him, and of course, like saying stuff like, "Well, Bill, of course you don't like Bill. He's trying to take your mom away from you and he doesn't love you." But we're seeing like the back of him where the back of his head is just like blown out, and I was like, "Oh my God."
Yeah, this movie had like felt reminiscent to me. I don't know if you've ever watched it. Kit and I did it early on, the movie House.
I never did.
Where like it's like a dude who is living in this house that like his aunt used to own, and she like killed herself in it, and he's like being haunted by like his old Vietnam War buddy, and like shit will happen in it, and it's like I don't like some of the like the shit with the real dad in this kind of reminded me a little bit of some of the stuff in House. Not as good, but was kind of like reminiscent for me.
Yeah, so I really liked that. I've always wanted to watch House. It's just like one of those ones I just never have.
I've been like thinking for like the second half of the year, once you get moved, I would like to do a month where we do the Critters movies, and I want to do a month where like, because there's 4 House movies, so I figured we could do like the 3 and have you watch like the first House with like, talk about it before like House 2 or whatever.
Yeah,
Because
I love Critters.
I love the all 4 House movies, and one of them has our boy Lance Henriksen.
Wow, I actually did not even. I knew that there was 2. I didn't know there was 4 of them.
Yeah,
Dang.
there's 4, but 2 of them almost never come up for streaming. But I believe they're both on YouTube.
I think the second one was on something recently, but yeah, no, I did not know.
The first 2 have been
Yeah,
streaming kind of pretty frequently lately. So
yeah.
anyway,
Until we
we're
want to watch them.
unfortunately not talking about.
So yeah, essentially like nothing really happens so the little girl. So Bill finds the Amityville dollhouse. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of want this dollhouse too. It's huge. He finds it in the shed in front of, like, I don't know the situation, um that somebody has put up an article about the previous house burning down in the back of the shed, and I don't know why they would do that, if like it was when he was a child and they just had the house rebuilt on the land. But anyways, that's how we find out about it, right? And the house the dollhouse basically like destroys her birthday present, which was a bike, and so they don't have anything else to give her, and they give her the dollhouse, which she loves. She immediately gets sick, and then nothing else really happens to her except like the house, she like disappears or something. But there's like a lot of weird stuff, like I don't know, there's not really a ton of like haunting stuff that happens, honestly.
Yeah, this one's a lot of just like the dollhouse for like just like causing grief for all of the family
Yeah.
members against each other. And
So
did you watch the Creep Show episode about the tiny head in the dollhouse?
no, I didn't. I haven't watched any creep
Oh,
show of the series
so
yet.
there was one in I think the first season that it seems like a lot of people did not like, that I thought was one of the best ones of it, where this girl has this dollhouse and the like family living in it. Like, well,
Oh,
like she'll wake up, she's got like dolls that are in like the dollhouse or whatever of like a family, and like one day there's just like a severed head, and it's just like she'll wake up and the family will be in like a different room and like shit's like going on, and at some point like the severed head like falls out of the dollhouse and becomes like life size, and it's very weird, but I kind of liked it. But it
oh,
kind of reminded me of some of the stuff in this, because it's like she has the dollhouse with these little like weird voodoo doll things in it, and at one point like reaches into it and her hand comes through like a different room in the dollhouse, and kind
yeah.
of like weird shit that I was on board with.
Yeah, I feel like I need yeah, I really like stuff that has to do like do you remember the episode of Are You Afraid of the Dark where the girl like moves in next to this house and then like one of the girls ends up like turning into a doll?
Yeah, I think so. It sounds really familiar.
Okay, that's like one of my favorite ones. So I think part of why I liked this movie is just because I like that kind of stuff. Um, but yeah, not a lot of haunting stuff happens. It's like a lot of, at least in this one, we see like, I guess I appreciate that they did sort of like a role reversal because whereas in most of these movies, if there's going to be like a person being possessed and a person being psychic, it's like the dad or the whoever is the one that gets like all angry and whatever, and then the wife is like the meek psychic one or whatever, but it's like the reverse in this one because his wife is the one that like kind of gets an attitude. And again, she's got the scene where like she's looking in the mirror and like touching herself or whatever, and she's like being influenced to be
Thirst after.
attracted
Yeah.
to Todd, the older son. And that is like, it's not even just like one instance, it's like throughout the middle of the movie. And I was like, oh, please, God, don't have this actually happen. Because I don't know how old this dude is, but oh my God. Um, but so yeah. And then Todd also has this like girlfriend that keeps coming over who's getting messed up. Like at one point, she they're like hanging out in front of the fireplace and she like catches on fire and she gets her whole head burnt and it looked pretty cool.
Yeah, Dana did
Um
not do well in this movie.
she did not. And then you have like the zombie dad progressively throughout the movie is getting grosser and grosser. Um and then kind of the same thing. Have you seen Insidious?
I think I did, but I don't remember. Is that the one that's got like the weird Darth Maul looking fucking character in it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know I watched it, but I
Yeah.
don't remember like anything from it.
Okay, so this was like like obviously this one came out in 1996, so it's before, but it had a lot of elements. I think I've said this before. Insidious is like one of my favorites. The very first one, it's like one of my top favorites. And this movie had a lot of similarities to it. Um like and so I think maybe that's also part of why I liked it a little more. Because you have this like scene of towards the end where Tobias the boyfriend of the aunt shows up at the house to help them, and it's like Tobias, Bill like basically like go into the dollhouse to like try and save the daughter because she's disappeared, and they're like in this attic area and there's just like fucking demons hanging out, and I was like, what is happening? it just like got it just like went off the rails, and I was like
Yeah,
really here
like
for it.
this was the one I was like the most excited to watch, because on Letterboxd, when you go to the actual page for this movie, the little header image for it. There's it's got like the poster and there's like a header image above the name and it's like the big kind of Satan looking demon. And I was like,
Hmm.
oh hell yeah, this movie's got like a fucking demon in it, like an actual demon you see. I'm in, and it's like literally 3 seconds of it, but like they all look pretty cool.
Yeah, there's like multiple of them. And again, like yeah, all just practical guys. So I
I
don't.
think this movie I would have liked this movie more if I cared about anybody in the family. If they weren't all just shitty all the time.
Yeah, I feel also the tie to Amityville doesn't make any sense, and so I feel like maybe if this was just like a standalone movie that didn't supposedly have anything to do with it, that was like not in that universe, maybe it would have benefited from it because there's just no reason. There's like nothing that ties Amityville to this except the house looks like it, and I'm like, it's like the atmosphere doesn't feel the same. The stuff that happens or what can happen is like completely different than all of the other movies too. And also they spend a lot of time kind of like family building, which I don't feel like is necessary because everyone hates each other and like we get it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, well, it's also like I think one of the issues for me was like that all of the family doesn't like each other. It's blatantly like the parents like each other and like each other's kids, but like or, at the beginning at least. But it's like each kid has their sides where it's like the brother and sister versus the fucking nerdy kid because it's just different families. But it's like all of the shit they show as to why they don't like each other is like just misunderstandings. Like they don't have a
yeah.
reason to. It's just like, and like at the beginning, it's not even like because of the house. It's just like just little like misunderstandings or like the fact that like the one kid's a jock and the other one's a nerd, so obviously they don't like each other. And I was just like, come on, like just I don't know. I it just makes everybody so you just don't want to root for any of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
And also, yeah, it just like doesn't really make a lot of sense as to
I will say that
because then
like
like
I feel like especially these four, kind of like you said when you were saying like this is sort of like Insidious, where it's like I feel like none of these needed to be an Amityville movie. It could have literally been a movie about a haunted dollhouse, and the other one could have been a haunted
yeah.
mirror and a haunted clock or whatever. Like it was literally just like it's almost like I would bet these movies were written as like this movie's about a haunted dollhouse and like, well, we have the rights to Amityville, why don't we just tie it to that and make it part of like
Yeah.
like an easy way to make some money.
Yeah, because yeah. I like how there's a DVD cover, and I don't know, it looks like it might be from Russia, where the front cover is like the little girl sitting there next to the house, but she's also got the lamp from Evil Escapes in it. And then like there was like a window in New Generation in that in the like institute that like light would shine
Mm.
through, and like that's on the cover too. Like
Well,
what is going on?
I think Severin released a box set called the Cursed Collection that's like the cursed item
Oh,
movies. So I wonder if maybe it's part of that. I don't know what like the poster was like for that.
could be. Where's
Um,
the mirror?
I don't know.
Oh my God, I totally forgot to tell you that I caught a spoof in New Generation. So, at the very end, when Keys like comes in and they're sitting at the table and he's supposed to like squirt them with the water gun or whatever, he starts like shooting at the table, remember? And then he shoots the mirror and it is destroyed. But when they show everybody getting up from behind the table, the mirror's still there. And then later they show it on the floor destroyed. I was like, hmm.
Yeah, that checks out. I gave this a 2.5.
I gave this one a 3
Yeah,
also.
I feel like upon like talking about it, I think I liked it more than like when I first did. I think watching these all back to back, I was just kind of like, okay, I've had enough of Amityville movies for a while. At least
Yeah,
this like these first eight like are just all a little bit too similar. That like I know I'm not going to like what follows the remake, but like I feel
yeah.
like they all at least seem like they're going to be a little bit different.
We'll see.
I do. So I looked up something. I googled the timeline of these movies,
Okay.
which like it says most of the first eight films listed above are part of the same continuity, with events told in chronological order, except for the Amityville 2: The Possession, which is a prequel. However, it should be
Okay.
noted that the continuity between these eight movies is very loose or non-existent. The Amityville Horror 2005 is a remake. Blah blah blah. The Amityville: The Awakening, which is listed in this as the 10th movie, but is not because it's like 2017 or some shit, is a meta film that works from the concept that the nine previous films are fiction and it is the only one that is real.
Uh,
So now I'm kind of excited to get to the Amityville: The Awakening in like 8 episodes.
that's
I'm
weird.
kind of intrigued by the idea of a movie that is, treating
S-
the first like 8 or 9 movies or whatever as,
Like,
story,
like,
like a cohesive story that,
like it's fiction within the world of the
yes,
movie.
yeah.
Okay. All right. I all right.
So this is basically saying that these first eight are all continuity, but kind of not really, and that two should be first because it's a prequel, but like also none of them really are tied together because because
Yeah.
I was trying to see if I was trying to find any like there was like an article that was just like explaining how these should be tied together, but there wasn't really.
Well, and that's why, like, when we were talking about the possession originally, that's why I was confused because it was like the storyline was based directly off of the very first family that this happened to, right? But then in the actual movie, the events had already happened. So that's why I'm like, I don't understand the continuity of this at all.
Well, the thing I don't get about that is like, okay, you're gonna make a movie that's about the first family there or whatever, that like the guy kills his siblings and like the parents or whatever, like at least name them after what it was in the first movie.
Right. Well, and that's why, because like in the very first movie, they do use the correct names, the DeFeos and the
Yeah.
Lutz, right? But then in the possession, they change it, even though I don't know. It's like that's why the continuity doesn't make sense to me because it's like sometimes they reference what actually happened and sometimes they make up a family that it happened to, but it's like different each time they make up the family. And so that's why I'm like, you need to either be clear, is it something that like that keeps happening in the house? Because like that's different than making it up every single time and like changing the circumstances.
Yeah, I know. I mean, like I was told that these like don't make any sense in a cohesive way. So like
No.
but like they also pretend to, which bothers me.
Yeah, I agree. That's why when we got to Amityville Curse, and it was kind of like, well, this is a different house, but it's in the same town. I was like, okay, I can deal with that. Like, do we want to branch off to other houses and just say there's something wrong with the whole town? That's fine with me. But then they like, you know,
I just like I don't know. Like I feel like if you're going to do these movies like this, like at least put in some effort to like pretend that I don't know. It just like it bothers me.
yeah, I mean, yeah, Be- yeah, I don't know. It's hard to. It's really strange.
All right. Next month we're going to do just one. We're gonna do Amityville remake from 2005, which
Oh
I'm
yeah.
excited to revisit, especially after these last four. I feel like I'm gonna need something to be at least a pick me up in the this fucking franchise. Oh, I
Yeah.
forgot
Back
Chloe Grace Moretz was in this.
yeah. Back to basics, but let's do it. Well, I'm curious to see like I've seen the remake like maybe twice, and I definitely watched it since I think I watched it like last year. And I still liked it. So I'm interested to see like after having watched all of these if my opinion has changed. Maybe I'll like it even more. I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen it since the day it came out. I went to see it in a theater, and I remember really liking it. But I we'll see. I know I like I. There's no way I'm going to like. It's definitely still gonna probably be like my second favorite. I feel like Possession is probably still gonna be my top one,
Yeah,
but
it's hard to
it's
beat.
this is definitely gonna or the remake will definitely still be better than almost everything else we watched so far. I'm going to be
Yeah.
very shocked if anything past the remake makes it into like a top five.
Yeah, who knows? It's
um
hard to tell because all of them have like kind of goofy covers.
yeah,
So you never
they
know.
all have like covers that look relatively the same, or like they all look like they're from like the same like company or whatever, like how all the Sci-Fi Channel ones kind of look similar.
Yeah.
And but
All those
I
like
don't know.
goofy like they're like almost they're just like computer animated like
Yeah,
pictures or whatever. Yeah.
but we'll see. I
Yeah.
Oh boy, this was a rough one.
At least like for me I enjoyed the second two enough that it wasn't as bad as like the Curses was just such a slug after having watched 3D and Evil Escapes. For me, like I know we took a little bit of a break, but it was just like it was kind of a lot. So at
Yeah,
least the last two were like sort of enjoyable.
I say I watched these all pretty much back to back, and it was not a good idea.
Yeah.
So nobody else do that. Let
No.
me make these mistakes for you. Yeah, next month we'll do the remake, and probably have Kit if he wants to come do it. I think that would be the one that I want to have him on for that and Clown House.
Okay. Yeah, he's got to do Clown House since he led me to believe that It's About Time slaps and it does not slap.
I feel like It's About Time needed like one or two more kind of like haunting scenes and I would have been on board. Like I think one of the issues I have with a lot of these movies is there's like so much fucking like just boring shit in between like actual haunting things.
Yeah, I'm interested to see if like once we get past the remake if it goes back into hauntings at all.
Some of them have to based on like what
Yeah.
they seem to be. Like, I feel like we're going to get a lot of like Conjuring, Insidious ripoffs from like the probably the last half of them,
Yeah, probably.
and like I feel like there's gonna have to be at least a like you know how we had that brief period in like the maybe early 2010s of just exorcism movies. I
Yeah.
feel like there's gonna have to be something in there for those. Like, I feel like they're gonna follow whatever the trends were amongst horror movies at the time. Like, I bet there's some kind of like shitty, like Saw-ish type movie. Maybe not like Saw specifically, but like a weird kind of like, you know how like Saw and Hostel and all that shit was just like the rave
Yeah.
for a couple years. Like, I feel like something in here is gonna be shitty like that. And we have two movies from the Polonia brothers that I am
Oh no.
not thrilled to watch.
Yeah, yeah, that is really interesting that we're like one like oh, I can't like once we're done watching them, it'll be really interesting because if like you look at the first grouping of movies, it was like there were hauntings, but it was really heavily kind of like faith-based. There was a lot of like priests involved, and once we get into It's About Time, that's completely gone.
Yeah.
And now it's just like haunted items and psychological, like the stories are a little bit more based on like what's happening to the characters and how the characters perceive things, which I feel like is pretty, you know, early 90s. So, yeah,
I
that'll be
mean,
interesting.
the first movie after the remake is called The Amityville Haunting. It has at least like a version of the house on the cover, but
Okay.
the description is this movie is a found footage film about the Benson family who move into the infamous house where the DeFeo family were murdered in the 1970s. Things start happening to anyone who visits this house and whoever lives there. This is the footage retrieved from the cameras. So it looks like it's going to be like a haunting found footage film, which makes sense for 2011 because that's probably
Yeah.
when like a lot of like VHS and paranormal activity and all that shit was like kicking off. But it seems like that at least is going to be like a haunting
So
movie.
I wonder if they're using the remake as sort of a reboot on the sequels
No,
because
because
like
the remake comes out 6 years before. And this one
oh,
says like in the 1970s. I think the remake takes place at like current times. I
okay.
don't think the remake
Yeah,
was
that
like a you know,
period piece
yeah,
or whatever. I don't, yeah, I can't remember. Okay.
like
Yeah, I don't, okay, then I don't
see
know.
one of these is just about an asylum in Amityville. Um, Amityville Death House is about an ancient witch's curse when
Well,
they
yeah.
in Amityville. That one's gonna be trash. Um, oh god, one of them's about a haunted like theater, Amityville Playhouse.
Oh no. So maybe we are kind of taking the idea from Amityville Curse where it's just like different places in the town.
I which like I would be interested in if there was continuity to it, you know? Like I feel
Right,
like
yeah.
that would be a fun like TV series. Like
Yeah.
you know how they did like Castle Rock that was like just this one town but it's all like the Stephen King shit like
Yeah.
just a TV series set in Amityville where like everything's cursed would be kind of fun.
Yeah.
But
I agree with that.
don't let all of these people that have made all of this nonsense be in charge of it.
Yeah, I kind of like I like the idea of that, but at the same time I feel like they're gonna just either go with it's a burial ground or it's witchcraft or satanic stuff. And when we recorded the Aquarium of the Dead and I was complaining about Conjuring 3, I totally completely I had so many thoughts about it. I forgot about to mention how mad it makes me that they were just like, yeah, Satanists did all this stuff. Satanists, this and that. And I'm like, bros, this is not real.
Yeah, so
Can we stop pretending in 2021 that it was real?
I think the thing I remember seeing Shane tweeting about when he watched it, or maybe you guys were talking about it, was that like there was like
Yeah,
a
we did.
courtroom thing where they were just like, um, yeah, like the Warrens, is that their name?
Yeah.
We're just
Yep.
like, no, it was Satanists, and the court's just like, that checks out.
So essentially what happens is like they go to court on the behalf of the person who said that they were possessed and said like we need to plead insanity because he was possessed by Satan. And the judge that's like trying to decide or whatever is like, what? That doesn't make sense. And Ed says something like, well, if you believe in God, then you also have to believe in Satan. And she's like, hmm.
Well, touche.
And I'm like,
Throw
no.
all of those cases out.
Also, and like, okay, to be totally fair, the guy that like this movie is also based off of a true story, right? And so this actually happened, and that was his plea, but it's like much the same thing as the DeFeo case where he was kind of like, oh yeah, I heard voices that told me to kill somebody. That happens all the time. You're not going to go in, and I'm pretty sure that like in real life that was his, the guy from the Conjuring movie, that was his like defense, like I was possessed by a demon or whatever. But the thing that gets me is that like Lorraine says something like, well, we found evidence of thousands of possessions. We just need to get some evidence that the specific exorcism or whatever. Thousands, Lorraine?
Yeah.
Thousands. I don't think so. Anyway, I'm not trying to discredit if people's beliefs, but I'm just trying to say that like, because then there's like all of the side stuff in the movie where like Ed and Lorraine are called into like solve this murder slash disappearance, and there's like all this like Satanist stuff, and like I'm like, this didn't happen. But anyways,
I saw half of the first Conjuring to where Caitlin fell asleep, and then we just never went back to it.
so we actually saw the first one in the theater. It was like one of our first dates, and we went with like some of our housemates. And like it was fine. Like at the time, I've definitely seen worse movies, and there were like a couple parts in it that were sort of creepy. And I think the problem for me with these movies is like they always come up with something that's just stupid and it ruins the whole movie. So, like for me, do you remember the first one at all?
No, I think Caitlin fell asleep like right around the time like things start kicking off, and then I just like never went back to like finish it.
Okay, so like everything leading up to it, I kind of liked because like in the first one, it's like essentially just the mom and the kids, right? And stuff starts happening. Like I can't imagine being a mother and then your kids are like, there's people trying to gouge my eyes out. They're standing right there. No, thank you. And so like there's some things that happen that are pretty creepy, but then there's a point where like the mom sees a bunch of ghost kids running around or some shit, and I was like, no, that's dumb. Um, I and then it just like I feel like it happens in every single movie. The second one um is also like they like um investigated, quote unquote, so many cases. Like I don't know why we're just sticking with like exorcism type stuff with them now. Like
Yeah,
I don't
I
know.
don't.
I'm so tired of exorcisms, but
I just don't want to
um
hear about the Warrens ever again at this point.
yeah, I mean, like I said, I just like don't give a shit about them. I personally don't care if they were frauds or not. Like obviously, like I said in our actual episode, they are being portrayed as fiction, like they're made up in the
Right.
movies. It's just like they actually had ties to these cases in real life, which that's why I'm like a little uh so the second movie, they just did way too much because it starts out with Amityville. Like, why not just do Amityville? Because they did a lot of stuff with it, and they're actually like one of the quote unquote clearest photos of a child apparition ever taken was like taken by them at the Amityville house. So like they did that in the beginning. Then they go to England to help this family that's being like possessed. And so they're dealing with like that possession, but then also they have this other entity, the tall man in there, and like they just did way too much stuff. And then in the third one, it's like exorcisms and witchcraft again. And I'm just like, it's just I don't know. And like I said, we haven't watched Annabelle yet, so I think there's three of those. I don't know what to expect at all, but
I just like I would almost bet money that they wanted to make The Conjuring an Amityville movie, but couldn't get the rights to make an actual Amityville movie.
and I mean it makes sense too because they like what different could they do? Like they didn't, you know what I mean? Like they came when the Lutzes were there to try and help them, but as far as I know, it's not like I don't know too much about their involvement. I don't know if they tried to do an exorcism or like what they claimed they could do for them. So I get it. Like it couldn't be a whole movie, but like why shove it into a movie about when it's about them going to England? You know what I mean? I just thought that was like really stupid. And
Yeah.
then it's kind of like they did it so that they could keep like referencing things because they reference Amityville in the third one again, but it's just like a throwaway line. And I'm like, okay, I don't know, just for the property, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, probably. Like I
Oh, but there's always something. My point is like the movies, regardless of how you feel about the Warrens, if you care about them or whatever, could be cool. But there's always something stupid in them that ruins it. And I know that we talked about this yesterday, but have you seen The Nun?
no.
Do you care if I spoil something really stupid of
No,
it?
not at all. I'm never going to watch it.
Okay. People skip ahead if you want to. So, The Nun is technically like the very, as far as from what we've seen, I don't know when, I know there's debate about La Llorona. I don't know when that takes place, but The Nun takes place in like way before all of them because the creature in that movie is one that is a part of The Conjuring 2. And so like the point of that is that there's basically like the nun from Conjuring 2 has been like let loose in this abbey in Romania, I think they are. And so like the main characters is this like father and this girl, and the girl, I don't remember her name, but she's from like early seasons of American Horror Story. Um, she's going to be a nun. So they go to the abbey to like check it out because one of the nuns has like committed suicide, and they're like, that's not good. Let's go check on him. And then like all of this stuff ensues with like him having to deal with stuff that's happened in his past. But then the way, okay, I'm gonna spoil the plot twist. The way that they basically banish the demon back into its like hell portal is that somehow this abbey has a vial of Jesus Christ's blood. They're going to use the blood to put on the seal to like re-seal the demon portal to hell or whatever. And I was like, excuse me?
Oh boy.
Why? Why? And then keep skipping if you're skipping this part. The way that they basically end up like wrestling in a bunch of water, and the nun like drinks some of the blood and spits it onto the nun's face, the girl, spits it onto the nun's face, and that's how it's like, ah, and it gets banished. And I was like, first of all, the idea that this is actually Jesus Christ's blood really is okay, you're pushing it, but then you're gonna put it in your mouth.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, so that's the point that I was like really on board with that movie up until that happened. And then I was just like, why? There's always something dumb that has to ruin the movie. Anyways.
Yeah, sounds not good.
Yeah.
Um,
So
yeah, I don't know. These movies are all bad.
yeah. Yeah. So I feel like right now it's just been hard to be watching all of these stupid franchises. Um Maybe just don't make a movie franchise that has so many movies in it.
Like, it's so weird to me that this, like, that just using, like, it's weird to me that one studio wasn't able to get, like, the rights on the Amityville name. Because, like, could you imagine if,
Yeah.
like, there were just, like, no real rights on, like, Nightmare on Elm Street, like, the insane amount of movies that would
Just
exist?
anybody could do it. Yeah.
Um,
I yeah, I don't
yeah.
know. Weird. They were just like, "Nah, we're done. I feel fine with this one. Someone else can have it."
Yeah. Like,
And I guess technically it's like it's not a made up property. Like for example, Nightmare on Elm Street. It's like an actual place. So I don't know how you and it's like a real thing that happens. So I don't really know how you put rights on it. So maybe that's the problem.
yeah, maybe, like, I don't know. It's just so weird to me how, like, the first Amityville Horror was, like, a success, and then it was just kind of like some sequels started coming out that had, like, I guess 2 is tangentially tied to it, and then everything following that is just kind of like, I don't know. Somebody just wanted to use the Amityville name, and they just did. And you get into,
Yeah.
like, the 2000s where it's just fucking the Wild West. Which, like, I'm on board with. I think it would be sick if all franchises were like that, but also these all look pretty
I also
bad.
think it's really strange because I don't feel like as a franchise leading up to that, this was like a super popular franchise, but like they're just kind of like, well, if we use the Amityville, maybe people will watch it because of the name. I'm like, I don't know that if
Yeah,
okay.
like, cause like if you look at stuff like Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street, like those all are almost like kind of how Saw was, where it was just one every year.
Yeah.
Like Friday the Third or Nightmare on Elm Street a little less, but Friday the 13th is pretty like consistent, where they made like I don't know, like 8 movies or something in like a probably like a decade almost. But these ones, it's like 79, and then the second one is 82, and then 83, and then 80, like, 83 to 89, 89 to 90, 90 to 92, 92 to 93, and then 93 to 96, and
And then
then nothing until
96, yeah.
2005.
Yeah. Is interesting.
Don't watch any of these. That's my. Just watch.
Just still watch the second one.
My timeline is Possession, the remake, and then Clown House. That's what I think is how it works.
Yeah, probably.
All right. I Amityville, but it's about time.
I think I Amityville, but why is a really good
I
question.
Amityville, but Dollhouse.